Good afternoon, and welcome to the Information Integrity, the Case of Asia and Oceania hybrid event. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Turrbal and Yugara peoples as the traditional owners and custodians of the land that we are meeting today in Meanjin, Brisbane. I would like to pay my respects to elders past and present. I'm Jayshree Mamtora, Manager Scholarly Communications at James Cook University, which is in Townsville, Queensland, also in Australia. And I'll be co-moderating this event with Nina Nakaora, who is the Library Administrator at the International School Suva in Fiji. Both Nina and I are members of the Regional Divisional Committee for Asia and Oceania. Our session today is the second such event organized by IFLA, with the first one held in March this year and organized by the European Division. And they look specifically at the role of libraries in information integrity in Europe. A further 4 such events are being planned across the remaining IFLA regions. So the conversation and discussion today will feed into the work that IFLA is doing with the United Nations and build on the recommendations to libraries to deliver the information integrity agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, which will address misinformation, disinformation, hate speech, protecting ourselves and our communities from harmful content. And the UN, the United Nations, released a code of conduct on information integrity in June this year, and IFLA is working with them as partners in advancing the agenda. Libraries, meanwhile, have long focused on how to ensure that users can access high-quality information and the skills to appreciate and use that information. The experience and expertise, as well as their reach across societies, makes them powerful potential partners in advancing the agenda. The 6 regional workshops all ask the same questions. What does information integrity mean? What are the key issues and questions behind the United Nations Code of Conduct? How are libraries impacted by misinformation and disinformation? What can we learn from each other to counter this? How can libraries realize their potential to contribute at all levels to building a healthy information environment? These are the questions we're going to be addressing. And now, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Saw Lin Lee. Lin Lee is the chair of the Regional Divisional Committee for Asia and Oceania, having been elected to the committee in 2023. She's also the Vice Chair of the IFLA Regional Council for the period 2023 to 2025. Lin Lee is currently the Director for Partnership at the National Library Board, Singapore, and she brings with her a wealth of knowledge from her previous positions at Public Libraries Singapore and the National Library of Singapore. She's also currently the President of the Library Association of Singapore, a very busy lady. Over to Lin Lee.
Thank you, Jayshree. I think you really opened up what this Information Integrity Seminar is about. Yes, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Welcome to the seminar. But first of all, before I start, I would like to thank the Regional Division Committee members for getting this done. Thank you for inviting all the distinguished speakers. Thank you for actually securing the venue, and as well as doing all the publicity for the seminar as well. And of course, this is also with the help of the regional office in Singapore that helps to make sure that the Zoom event is done. So it's very heartening to see the teamwork in our region and make all these things happen. And of course, last but not least, I would like to thank all the distinguished speakers online and in person for coming on board to speak on this topic. Okay, So I would say, like what we mentioned, what is information integrity? This is something that is a very integral component of the info literacy program that we have been pushing for years as libraries, officers, as librarians, and as library chiefs. So it is always about we should have the most accurate, credible data and information, and all these things must be without alteration, and it represent what it is. And because of that, we need to have secured data storage, we need to have audit checks, and even adherence to protocols to make sure that all this information stay intact and not tampered with. So that's why, and people were thinking, why is there such an urgent need for information integrity now? Hence, like what Jayshree was mentioning just now, when IFLA HQ informed us that the United Nations has launched the global principles to make sure on this information integrity, I was very thrilled because it is a chance for librarians, libraries, to now take on the challenge to do this global issue that we can all tackle on. And there's a question, why is this such an urgent need now? You can see this picture. I mean, if people were always on the social media, you'll see this stream Jesus. And it is actually generated by AI. With the rise of AI in applications, we see that there's more and more misinformation and disinformation. And somehow, this also created hate speech. And it makes the world more polarized. And this is going to be very conflicting because we are undermining a lot of key important public issues like public health or even like climate change, because we're also focusing in how to debunk myths, debunk misinformation, and as well as all this fake news that's coming about. So therefore, with this, how are we going to combat this? It's important to look at there's a change of information consumption. Oh, well, we all know information consumption is like food consumption. We are what we eat, and we are what we read. So most of us never like vegetables because they are hard to digest and they don't taste good, but they are very important because they provide fibers for us. So in our diet, food diet, vegetables is always something that we always should focus on in order to have a good one. So similarly for information, academic research articles, in-depth papers, these are like vegetables in our diet itself. And social media, you know, they are very addictive, very good to consume, and very fast. It's like sweets or desserts. So consuming too much sweets and desserts, honestly, we will have some health issues. Okay, so you can see people are now more attached to sweets and desserts. And at times, this will cause a real issue in our health. And similarly, if we have consumed this in our information, we might be in our echo chamber, where we believe what we hear and in the environment, social media environment. So it's important that we curate what we digest, be it food or information. Okay, you can see here now, this is the number of people using social media. It's a very scary figure because it also means that more and more people are spending time on social media and internet. And because of that, more content owners and content creators and even advertisers are trying to grab as much attention from all these consumers. And what this has created is actually an attention economy, because they are always trying to come up with new things to make sure we stick to them or we follow them. And however, this also means there is a very high risk and increase of misinformation and disinformation. And it's alarming because looking at this figure, it's from the January 2024 this year. I think I was quite surprised that a person actually spends 6 hours and 40 minutes a day. And this is actually more than a quarter of a day, around 28% of a day, on internet. Yeah, so it's very scary to see that this is how prevalent people are using social media in such sense. So, because of all these things, how are we going to address and safeguard information integrity? Because of time, I think I could only briefly share as librarians what we can do, and hope that this is something that we can discuss further in our next discussion. In summary, we think that there's 8 things that we can work on. First thing, as librarians, we should try to curate or even organize quality content. And this quality content should be something credible, and so those that people can actually trustworthy of these resources. And of course, we should educate our users to use advanced search tools. Only by using advanced search tools, the information retrieval of high quality content can be more relevant to the users. The third thing we can do is that we should provide information literacy education and fostering critical thinking. This is something that we should always continue to work hard on. So I think this is something that is not new, but we should continue to do this. It's important because this education will allow our users to be able to know what is real, what is not real. And they are also able to distinguish what are the sources of all these things. Because many times when we see the students, they'll say, ask them to go and search, they will just go Google search. But when Google search come by, the results are the one which may not be the right and trusted source. And therefore, we need to teach them how to differentiate all these results itself. Okay. And definitely, it's important that we create engaging and accessible trusted space so that people can actually focus on to all this accessible and reliable information. The next one is, of course, since because of the rise of technology, we should also try to embrace technology. Okay, if we are able to use technology to do personalized services, like tailored recommendations to what the people want, it will actually help them to more efficiently use our service. So it's important that we need to know what people want, and therefore we can design the content and experiences, and then they can also come back to us. It's like we are becoming the content creator, and we need to know what these people need. And definitely, we should also try to foster collaboration and networking, allowing our users to know the experts, and then they can actually collaborate together and help them to navigate the right information landscape. The other one, of course, is to promote open access and digital literacy, because by doing so, they can actually have a very diverse range of information resources. Okay, so we'll let them know not only Google can help you to do the work, but there are also other databases, other things, other tools that you can use of. So it's important that we should promote open access and digital literacy. And last but not least is that we should advocate for ethical standards. Okay, it's important we need to make sure that diverse voices and of course different viewpoints are represented, and this would then support transparency, promote ethical journalism, as well as responsible content creation. So these are the 8 things that we think maybe our libraries or librarians can work on. And with this, I would end my presentation, but also open the seminar by the quote from the UN SecGen. Everyone should be able to express themselves freely without the fear of attack. And everyone should be able to access a range of views and information sources. So with this, I hope everyone will enjoy the discussion later. And thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you. Very interesting presentation, Lily. So our next speaker is Dr. Shadrach, who is the director of the Commonwealth Educational Media Centre for Asia, or CEMCA. CEMCA is the regional centre of Commonwealth of Learning Canada and is an intergovernmental organisation in the status of United Nations agencies recognised by the Indian government that hosts the centre in New Delhi. In this position, Dr. Shadrach oversees programs that enhance quality learning and access to education and skill development in Asia. He also serves on the Global Steering Committee of the Global Partnership of Artificial Intelligence. Dr. Shadrach.
Thank you, Professor Jayashree, for co-moderating this panel. And thank you, Dr. Gamage and Dr. Bihani and our esteemed speaker who spoke so eloquently just now for inviting me to be a speaker here. It's an honor to be with all of us and to deliberate upon some of the thoughts that I have around this topic, information integrity, the case of Asia and the Pacific. So I'm going to briefly touch upon these aspects. There are 6 items that I'm going to talk to. In a minute, I'll probably spend a minute or two in each of those topics. So information as a concept, we all know, because all of us are information scientists in one way or the other. And when it comes to information, the idea of conveying it is important. Now, they would say that information is conceived first. So consumption or inception has to be inscribed or encoded in one or the other formats. And when it's inscribed, it's transmitted. When it's transmitted, it's received. When it's received, it's interpreted. For interpretation, you need to be inspired. Talk a bit louder, okay. So for that information to be acted upon, you need to be first inspired, and then on the basis of your inspiration, you interpret the information, and then you act upon it, and that action should lead to something. So this is a kind of a chain that we know, but when it comes to as a concept, there are a variety of things that are interconnected, and as an abstract concept, if it were to be basically useful, the informant needs to act upon and the receiver needs to act upon. So the abstraction requires to be sensed in one way or the other. In other words, as such, information does not do much unless it's sensed and interpreted. So I wanted to underline this aspect because we're talking about 2 concepts, information and integrity. Integrity is a very interesting concept. When you look at the whole idea of integrity, it comes back to some sort of an impeccable agreement within. So you can't serve 2 masters, what they call. So you have to serve one master. But at a national level, integrity is seen very differently. At a national level, you need to have the various systems that need to work together as a group. What are the systems at the national level? You have the executive, you have the judiciary, you have the legislative, you have the media, you have the civil society, you have the ombudsman office, you have the law enforcement agencies, you have the civil society, you have the business houses, you have audit institutions, and you also have anti-corruption agencies and others. So all these actors would need to work together if a nation in the Westminster model has to function very well. Now, these are all known as the integrity pillars. And I had the privilege of working closely with Peter Eigen and Jeremy Pope from New Zealand, who both gave this concept of national integrity systems and national integrity pillars. Now, at a national level, when such a system prevails, at an individual level, when you look at it, you get to recognize that qualities such as honesty, responsibility, respect, fairness, courage, all these put together make for integrity. Now, academicians have studied this so eloquently, and they've come up with what they call the 4 pillars of integrity. They call it radical responsibility, feeling feelings. You feel the feelings. So that's the second condor, and impeccable agreements. So these 4 factors or tenets seem to be very important when it comes to integrity. But basically what it is, it's being consistent in adhering to moral and ethical principles. And it's extremely important in the context of information integrity. And why this has been taken at a global level? Why does United Nations office take it so seriously? It's partly because there are 2 types of crises that we see in the world. The first crisis is that from information scarcity, we have moved to a situation called information abundance. Now, from information abundance, we are moving to a situation called information colored, in all sorts of colors, all sorts of grays. This is where I think Professor Jayashree was mentioning about misinformation, fake information, disinformation, and others. So information doesn't seem to be in black and white anymore. Information is painted and colored. And that's a major crisis today, particularly when the state itself tries to paint a picture. It becomes much more interesting. The second major situation that is facing the world is the 17 goals and the targets, 116 targets. We do not have valuable, highly respected data, although many UN agencies compile the national data, their national coordinators, national monitors, to ensure that the commitments made by the heads of the governments in 2015 leading to 2030 agenda. And if you look at it, and 2 years ago, last year, Dr. Kamage and I were here we were in Bangkok, where the UNESCAP put together this SDG meeting. And there, first time we recognized that every goal, we are only backsliding. We are not meeting up any of the goals. Rather, when it comes to climate action, we are even going backwards. And this is notwithstanding the fact that the first crisis that I mentioned, that if the state itself would start painting and coloring information, then you really get a situation where there is a problem with information integrity. So the UN has come up with these 5 major areas to basically look at the whole idea of information integrity from people's prism, whether people have the confidence in terms of trusting information that's out there, put out there, whether it is humanistic when it comes to advertisers and companies. And today the biggest advertiser, as you know, would be one's own politicians who would come out and advertise what they've done. So is it humanistic? And when it comes to data integrity, are we empowering the public? In other words, can a citizen own one's own data? And the fourth domain that the United Nations is quite keen and interested, owing to the fact that the national integrity pillars, one of the major pillars is the media, free and pluralistic media. They are focused on that. And the last item is transparency and research, the triangulation of whether what is put out there is fact-checked or really corroborated. So they've come up with, as Dr. Jayashree mentioned earlier, they've come up with recommendations to the various actors today perceived to be important, influential. Who are these actors? The technology companies, no doubt. Now there are new actors in the room in the name of artificial intelligence actors. And the last 2 days, Sam Altman himself has been making news in terms of holding 7% of OpenAI shares means for him a few billions of perception value. So today, AI companies rule the roost. And they've come up with recommendations to the advertisers, particularly the companies. And I would say advertisement is not just companies and conflict out there. Advertisement is carried out by a variety of actors who would like to influence you. The private sector actors, they've come up with recommendations to the new media actors, researchers, civil society, states, and the United Nations. And in this context, I think this particular meeting is very important because when UN principles apply to all these actors, now IFLA and our colleagues have taken it down to another step. Why only state? Why only United Nations? Why can't libraries? Libraries who influence the minds of the people through truthful and very holistic information. Now, when it comes to the Asia Pacific, as I mentioned, advertisement is all around. The moment you wake up, even the waking up is done by somebody who wants to advertise something, right? Alexa would come out and say, oh, this good morning, and you are likely to do so many things. So, in fact, our behaviorism is influenced in a manner that we do not even know what we want to do because subconsciously we are attacked. So detecting the integrity of advertisement efforts is something that is very important. Now they say data is the new oil today, which means everyone is monetizing on our personal behavior, our not just information, consumer behavior, and so on. So Tim Berners-Lee, again with whom I had the privilege of working, really regretted creating the web. He said, I created a web and gave it free to the world, but today web is in the hands of people who would like to manipulate. So algorithm transparency becomes extremely important in the context of AI. And how do we ensure that this could happen? There is also this aspect of netizens, the argumentative Indian, as Amartya Sen would put out. He wrote a book called Argumentative Indian. It could be argumentative Sri Lankan, it could be argumentative Aussie, whatnot. So that's the idea of argumentation is extremely important. And finally, what I call the report card. When it comes to citizens, you ask them for any report card. How do they rate services? How do they rate governments? How do they rate the local authorities? They would come up with their own. And this is something that very interesting for librarians to think about. Now, Albert Einstein has very simply put it, whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted. So, when it comes to libraries, what do we do? I think IFLA has done a great deal in terms of distilling it down to the library level. So if IFLA could sit at the United Nations, why can't Library Association sit at the seat of discourse at the national level? If Library Association could sit at the national level, why can't libraries sit at the provincial level? The state library could sit at the provincial level. So this discourse needs to taken forward, because the UN has come out with broader principles, but it has to distill down to our local level, at a level where we can act upon. So the libraries can create that culture. It's not just the physical space culture, the culture of integrity, culture of outreach, innovation, curation, you mentioned earlier, and culture of awareness. That's very important. And when it comes to the librarians, it becomes all the more important because librarians are the ones, the Puritans in the room, if you like. And they are the ones who can change the world, who can not only spread digital literacy, awareness, all these issues, but they can also encourage citizens to come out with their report card. They can also work with citizenry, netizenry approach to evaluate information. They could be argumentative. There could be the ones who would promote information literacy, information inquiry literacy, critical thinking, and whatnot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shadrach. Our next speaker is Dr. Emilia Ibrahim. Dr. Ibrahim will be joining us online. She is the senior lecturer at the University Technology Mara, Sarawak branch, Malaysia. She has over 20 years of experience in the field of information science and has played a crucial role in the establishment and refurbishment of several libraries in Sarawak, enhancing access to information and resources for local populations. Moreover, she is actively involved in researching heritage preservation and indigenous knowledge management, striving to protect and promote the rich cultural heritage of the region. Dr. Emilia.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. So my slides would be shown there by the committee. So I'll be talking on behalf of Malaysia. So basically, this is my take on information integrity in Malaysia. I would say most of what I'm going to discuss has been discussed by the chair just now. So I'll just go through with basically a report of what we have done in Malaysia. So next slides, please. Okay, as an introduction, I believe this also has been discussed by Dr. Shada just now. So information integrity has been quite an important issues, and I think when the UN actually highlighted the issues and come up with the global principles, so this is basically a global phenomenon where everyone in the world is actually affected by information integrity. So we are all involved as we use the technology. We are distributing information and we are accessing information. So basically all the frameworks on information integrity that has been highlighted by the UN has to be taken into action by us librarians and as well by the nation. So I will talk on what Malaysia have done or will be doing in terms of information and integrity. So next, we need to highlight the challenges of information integrity and challenges that library are facing with regards to information integrity. Therefore, these are basically the challenges that we are facing. So first of all, of course, fake news, disinformation, and misinformation. So there's a lot of fake news with AI generated news, with all the examples of activities, postings. I believe in all the social media, and people are, I believe, are actually running after attention. So they would actually come up with whatever news that they think might actually attract people's attention. So this is one of the issue that we face, the challenges that we need to actually curb at the moment. And then next is technological and cybersecurity threats. So the more advanced the technology, we need to be at par with whatever changes that has been made whatever ability that the technology has that would actually create misinformation or disinformation in the community. And then, of course, cybersecurity threats is another issues where we are actually prone to be attacked through cybersecurity, like hackers or spam. Okay, the next challenge would be the public awareness and information overload. So this is something that we cannot avoid. Every day, we get like postings, we get updates, notifications on so many issues around us. Be it something that we are interested in or something that just actually being made available and being told to us due to it becomes a public interest. So whatever things that actually being uh, searched by other members of the public, we might actually get the notification or the information that might be valid or might be invalid as well. And with so much information being given to us, so we might actually face information overload. The next challenge would be the information governance. The authority, the agency, the people who are supposed to give information, whether they are actually giving valid information in time of the information needs, or they might have issues in distributing authoritative information. And in some cases, some information being given to the public might be biased towards organization, towards people, towards information that might leads to political parties or political understanding of something, or even on to benefit like certain group of people within the society. And last but not least, ethical news and media distribution. So this is challenges that I believe the media people, okay, the mass media people are facing. So for them to actually be at par with the social media, they need to come up with some sensational information or some informative information. So there is an issue that they're facing. They might want to have some valid information, some news that they need to tell, but they have to make it sensational in the sense that people would be attracted to get the correct information from the authoritative media. Next. So in Malaysia, we see these are the approach that we think at the moment would actually assist in the information integrity adaptation in the society. So we have the government with the enforcement. There are a few agencies that would be involved in assisting with integrity as well as information integrity in the society, as well as some laws and policy that would guide us to be more ethical. Okay, basically to be more ethical in accessing and distributing information within the society and within the nation. Okay, and the next approach would be by libraries and other agencies. So in terms of libraries and other agencies, we see that instead of having an enforcement in the government level, we need to empower our community. We need to empower the society by giving them awareness, by teaching them or educating them, and allowing our community to actually coming not come out to actually be having a more well educated decisions in accessing and distributing information. Okay, and then of course collaborations would help you to actually not only within the country but also internationally to actually access and to actually have a more good information and more authoritative information to be dispersed among members of the society in your country and also internationally. Next. Okay, these are the two agencies in Malaysia which actually involves directly with integrity. So the first one is Malaysian Institute of Integrity. So this institute basically helps strengthen the capacity and competence of integrity and governance of the public and private sectors. They are basically the agency that would actually come up with the guidelines, with the assistance, with the policies on how to go about and what kind of information that a public agency or a private agency should distribute to the people. Okay, they would actually be the one who actually see what's ethical and what's unethical in the community and in the operation of the public and private sectors. And the next one is Enforcement Agency Integrity Commission. This commission is basically focusing on law enforcement. They focus on the integrity among members of the law enforcement, who are like the police officers, the army, people in the legal sorry, people who do legal works in the government. Okay, people who are like court staff, prosecutors, judges, and so on and so forth. So they ensure that who has the power in authority and in making decisions about law won't be actually would be doing things ethically and with integrity. Next. So basically, one of the act that we are that deals directly with information integrity is the Communication and Multimedia Act of Malaysia, in where in one of the section, okay, Section 233, it highlights the improper use of network facilities or network services, where this section is meant to curb the misuse of communication networks, particularly for offensive and malicious purposes. So all the laws regarding like fake news, disinformation, misinformation falls under Section 233 in Communication and Multimedia Act of Malaysia. Next. Okay, these are other policies, other guidelines that actually, in order to discipline people and ensure that everyone is actually follows information integrity in our daily lives and our uh, working environment. So the first one is Malaysia Code of Responsible Conduct in Research. So it's meant for researchers in universities, in research agencies, libraries, as well as other agencies, when to ensure that we are doing a proper conduct and ethical ways in doing our studies or research. The next one, of course, intellectual property rights. Our Malaysian Intellectual Property Organization, they are the ones who actually ensure that all the creators, all the authors, artists, inventors are well protected under the intellectual property rights. Okay. The next one is Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance. So for organization, for private sectors, for companies, for them to actually have a proper governance and actually distribute uh, valid information to the public regarding their institutions. And then Consumer Protection Act. So it deals with product, it deals with information given in products being sold to the public to ensure that the consumer would actually get the best information about the product that they consume. Okay. And last but not least, I think this is like most universities in Malaysia would have a research ethics committee and internal review boards that would actually be analyzing studies and research that needs to be done or being done by the researchers within the institutions to ensure that they follow a proper research ethics and they are actually having integrity in accessing information, data collection, data analysis, as well as distribution of data findings of their research. Okay, next. So now we move on to what libraries in Malaysia have done to ensure that the nation are aware and are actually educated about information integrity. So if you look at the listings later on, so basically the empowerment initiatives are basically what have been discussed earlier on with by the chair. The first one is information literacy programs. Okay, in many libraries or all libraries in Malaysia, we do have an information literacy programs. So we have like workshops and training sessions. We also have guidelines towards information and media literacy. The National Library actually come out with a few sections of the guidelines. So it means that they have like the beginners, the intermediate, and the advanced session for the information literacy and media literacy. So they have a proper guidelines that everyone can follow to actually learn about information literacy and information integrity. And as for universities, as for academic libraries, we incorporate information literacy as part of the curriculum. It means that every students in the universities, it's compulsory for them to take information literacy class. And in some cases, they are actually being given marks for the classes that they have attended. Next, a digital library, a digital literacy campaigns. This is another initiatives by our libraries. So we have libraries digital literacy initiatives. Some of them are having like workshops. There are a number of workshops that their users can attend as part of the digital literacy initiatives, while the libraries also collaborate with the media and communication authorities, with the ministry, where the government actually launch initiatives to promote digital literacy. So it means that the government is actually very concerned about the distribution of information and information integrity among the nation, among the society. Therefore, they actually have a proper initiatives to promote digital literacy. And I believe if you are like, if you come to Malaysia, you listen to like the government radio or a TV, they always have that advertisements and campaigns about fake news, campaigns about being ethical in giving information, and they also tell people what would be the penalty if you distribute fake news in Malaysia. Okay, next. Next will be promotion of reliable information sources. I think most libraries, they they always come up with like brochures, they come up with notification, emails, and so on the valid information sources that's available in the library, the valid information resources that users can access within their library. So these are the examples of information sources that users can access. We have digital databases and e-resources. So public libraries, academic libraries, even special libraries would have digital databases and e-resources that they subscribe to and are open to their users. Of course, the library portal, okay, and also most library also encourage users to use the My Government portal. My Government portal is basically the government portal that gathers all the information related to ministries and government agency, and they are the ones who come up with valid information about issues and things that's happening in the country. Next. Okay, next is fact checking and awareness campaign. This is another initiatives where we have like posters, we have workshops, we have talks and webinars about doing a proper fact checking, okay, and being aware of the information that actually being distributed, and information that has been given to us through the social media especially. Okay, first of all, the promotion of sebenarnya.my platform. I think the platform started when we faced COVID-19. Okay, at that moment, then we were actually being given so many information that we end up having more misinformation than an actual information. Therefore, the government come out with the sebenarnya.my platform to actually tell people that if you want to check on the facts that given to you, you can actually go to the platform and check whether the platform is the information that you receive is actually correct. Okay, and then social media engagement, because of since everyone is using social media, so one of the best way to approach them with correct information is actually to engage through the social media. So libraries and information agencies are actually being actively posting things, correct information, through their social media, so that users, okay, and the society could actually access information through their social media. And next is guides to identify fake news. Okay, we come up with like guidelines. There would be ways of people to identify fake news and how to actually acknowledge valid information or invalid information. Okay, next. Next is access to information and open data initiatives. So first of all, of course, we have the government official data portal. Okay, so there are many data that can be actually accessed through the government portal, especially like statistics, reports, and numbers that we might want to access from the government portal. And then institutional repositories by libraries and information agencies, and also open access platform, where the platforms actually gather research data from universities and research agencies in Malaysia. Next, the promoting of research integrity through research data management. We have classes, we have workshops, we have activities that actually encouraging researchers especially to do a proper research data management, to actually go through a proper ways in managing their research data. And of course, libraries also promote plagiarism and detection tools, plagiarism detection tools, where most universities are actually subscribing. And depending on the universities, every researcher and every students in the university needs to actually do plagiarism detection tools in order to submit their research and their academic reports. So last but not least, next year is collaboration. I think it's important for libraries, especially, to collaborate, because of this is how we discuss, this is how we share information, and this is how we learn from each other. The collaboration among libraries, like the one that we are having now, for example, international collaboration like this, allow us to learn from each other. And at the same time, we know that if we are having something that might be less than others, we can learn from other people, we can learn from other agencies or even other countries on how they do things in their place, in their country, in their organization, so that we can upgrade our approach towards our organization. So I think that's about it. Just now they've given me a warning not to go through too far. So these are all the things that have been done in Malaysia. So I believe the challenges are the same in many places, in many countries. We have issues in technical, we have issues in our human resource, and training and so on and so forth. So I think the next speaker, or even the earlier speaker, has actually spoken about that. So with that, I thank you. And that's the end of my presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Emilia. Our final presentation is co-authored by Loreen Pai and Ganeshwar Narayan Jr. Loreen Pai is joining us in person. She is the librarian for regional libraries at the University of the South Pacific since 2022. Previous to that, she was the coordinator for the Diploma in Library and Information Studies program at the University of the South Pacific, and she was also the librarian at the Reserve Bank of Fiji for a number of years. She is the current president of the Fiji Library Association, and Ganeshwar Narayan Jr. is joining us online. He is currently a senior librarian specializing in digital transformation and management at the same university. He has 14 years of experience in academic libraries and over 20 years in the information industry, and he oversees USB library projects and services related to digitization and ICT. Ganeshwar is an active council member of the Library Association Fiji and a personal affiliate member of IFLA. Loreen.
Thank you for the introduction, Nina. Well, Bula everyone, all who are seated here this afternoon, and also to our viewers online, to the committee. Thank you for giving Ganeshwar and I an opportunity to share with you our experience and our work at the University of South Pacific. Now, from Nina's introduction, you have heard that my colleague and I, we both work at the University of the South Pacific Library, but we are both active members for the Library Association of Fiji, formerly known as the Fiji Library Association, and that has changed as last year due to the requirements of our policymakers, so we had to change that to Library Association of Fiji. Oh, there's Ganeshwar. You have just seen him. He is joining me from USB Library at Laucala, and we're so excited and we were nervous in terms of presenting on this platform. So I hope you'll bear with us, because my discussion is not going to be only focused on how USB delivers the services in terms of mitigating information integrity, but we will also share with you our experience and how we are delivering to the regional campuses and library staff. Okay, as mentioned by Nina, I am the librarian for regional libraries, and I'm so happy to see my colleagues from Vanuatu sitting here this morning. I had an opportunity to meet with them last year. So I'll just go through these slides. Let me see. Is it this one? The big green one. The green one? Right. So our presentation will focus on the importance of information integrity, research information integrity, regional support information integrity, key initiatives, strategies, how we're delivering at SDG, and how we are delivering the SDGs, and in alignment to IFLA and our recommendations. Importance of information integrity. I think at an academic level, everyone seated here and everyone joining us online know that information integrity involves accuracy, reliability, and consistency, prevent the spread of information, misinformation and disinformation, supporting academic honesty and avoiding plagiarism, enhancing the critical thinking, analytical skills of students. At the University of the South Pacific, our motto is to engage with our students through the library services that we provide, not only limited to Laudala, but to the USP community, not only to the USP community libraries and to the staff, teaching staff and students, but also to the communities. In my presentation towards the end, we will have a few photos that will show you how we engage with our communities and the libraries out in the region that provide those services to the communities. We connect through our campuses again. That is the only pathway that we connect with our regional campus and to the regional communities within the university community. Okay. And through the engagement and the connecting through the campuses, we aim to ignite learning through our collections and collaborate to encourage our regional students, our regional community, understand factual information and be able to translate those information into their own languages. So there's quite a lot of things that's happening out in the region, perhaps not known at this platform, but I hope that from this presentation you will just get a glimpse of what we are doing out there in the region. Research information integrity, the whole scope that you have already heard from my peers who have just spoken about honesty and transparency, accountability and responsibility, ethical use of data, formation of collection of data, how we deliver data, reproductivity and verification, data protection and security, accuracy and reliability. See, so all these framework you have already heard more in details from my peers this morning. So for us at the regional, because we have a group of regional libraries, we are guided with our USP Library Network manual. So we have a manual created by the professionals out at Laudala to assist our staff out in the region. And from our staff, through training and continuous collaboration with them, the staff also provide the same services, trying to maintain information integrity through their training out in the community. So that is sort of like the sequence that we're following right now. At the moment, out in the region, we only have a professional in Samoa and Solomon Islands. All the other campus and central libraries do not have professionals, meaning a trained professional librarian. So while that's in the process of acquiring the human resource for the libraries, at the moment right now, because of the short of staff, we are working in that pathway. So the training is done by the professionals at Laudala, and then our staff out in the region trained through this, we have scheduled trainings on how to perform their library responsibilities, and then they train their library staff out in the region. So far, it has been working well, but I suppose more support from IFLA, from associations like ALIA and Lianza, we will be able to deliver better and more up-to-date into what the information trends that we are facing today. Regional campus information integrity, that is just what I've just said. One of our area that we look at is the language. We tried to translate the IFLA policies, few of them into our mother tongue in Fiji, so that worked well. We've had it in our Italki language and Hindustani, so we're trying to do the same out in the region. It can be a challenge because taking the time to translate requires skills. So this is one area where we will be working on with the regional libraries. Technology infrastructure, at the moment with USB, we are all connected through one system, Seriously Dynamics. So our staff who are trained on the databases, on how to navigate the databases that we have, they're also trained on how to use the information through our information research skills program that through the library at Laudala, we tailor from undergraduate level also to our Pacific TAFE courses and to our undergraduates and postgraduates. Through these programs, we teach our students, staff, and our library staff, teaching staff and library staff on the importance of identifying credible resources, how to use information correctly. So you see, the technology infrastructure, those are some that we have in place at the moment. Digital literacy also is covered in our information research skills program, and the databases that we also provide through our USP platform. The key initiatives are research support and citation management, liaison librarians at information research skills, plagiarism detection tools and curriculum integration, academic integrity, policies and awareness campaigns, access to credible information and databases, promotion of open access resources. These are some of the key initiatives that we have, that we currently provide through the University of the South Pacific Library. And as we were discussing with my colleague and I, okay, in terms of the SDGs, how are we going to, how information integrity, why is information integrity important? And one of the goals that we picked up was poverty, reduce poverty. We feel that through, as custodians of information, as information providers, information professionals, we are more of the maneuvers in the information trend. So as the information changes, how it is delivered, how it is packaged, depends on how we information professionals, librarians, package them for our users. Through that, we will be able to reduce poverty, we will be able to provide quality education, we will be able to reduce inequalities, and we'll be able to open pathways for partnerships and collaboration with important stakeholders such as IFLA. Those are some of the recommendations that we have to expand information literacy campaigns, enhance regional partnership and collaboration, increase use of technology, support for ethical use of AI tools, something that is very important to us today. Now, that is especially for us in the region. One of our biggest issues is connection, internet connectivity out in the region. Many times we will have, well, fortunately for Australia or New Zealand, other countries, you'll have your connections all instantly. But for us in the region, no, it takes time. Sometimes they are not connected. So through our liaison librarians, campus librarians, we try to get the information, package it well, and then send it to our library staff to disseminate to the students and the community. So you see, one of the challenges that we face is internet connection, and the other one is human resource. Now, these are just some of the photos. I had mentioned earlier how we are working in the community. So this is Cook Islands Library. The library staff is also teaching the students out there about our collection. They also accommodate students coming into the library to learn more about the collection, the databases that we provide at USP Library. So that is the Cook Islands Library. Nauru Library also serves the community. You'll see there's body reading programs that they have on Saturdays. So these are some of the programs that they provide at the library. This library not only serves the teaching staff and students, they also serve the community. So on the weekends, you'll see other people from the community coming to use the library, which is very good because they have programs like for women programs and the youth programs they hosted in the library by the library staff in collaboration with the Rotary Committee. Vanuatu Campus Library, I had an opportunity to visit Vanuatu last year. So you'll see the students also coming into the library, secondary school students coming to use the collection. We've had an IRS session with these law students, and also on the last photo here is the session with the student assistants. We have student assistants in the out in Vanuatu that have interest to come and learn more about the library and perhaps work in the library in the future. So these are some of the initiatives. There's many more. Had an opportunity to also meet with the Vanuatu Library Association and see how we can collaborate and partner in knowledge sharing and skill sharing. So in conclusion, the USP Library plays a pivotal role in promoting information integrity across the university community through targeted workshop, research support services, collaboration with academic departments, and promotion of open access resources. The library fosters an environment where students and faculty can engage with information ethically and critically. Despite challenges such as digital and misinformation and diverse students' needs, the library continues to innovate, adapt to ensure that information integrity remains a central component of academic life at USP. I'd like to leave us with the thought that as information professionals, sitting here today and also joining us online, we were once known as the custodians. We are still custodians, where informations are all packaged now in our little libraries and corners. But we are more maneuvers of information today. We provide the guidance on how information is prepacked and disseminated to the community. We manipulate. We are the ones who will be able to inform our key stakeholders whether the information is correct or incorrect. I'd like to think of, if I may, Proverbs 35. It says, every word of God is flawless. As individuals, we are the custodians of information. We are the ones who be able to make information perfect. Our users don't know how to perfect information dissemination. We, as information professionals, are the only ones who are able to unpack, prepack, and disseminate those packages perfectly. Again, once again, on behalf of my colleague and I, would like to take this opportunity to thank the IFLA committee for giving us this opportunity to share with you about the work that we do at the University of the South Pacific Library, also through the Library Association of Fiji, and to our regional campus and central libraries, and the opportunity where we will be able to work closely with organizations such as IFLA to make our work out in the region perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Loreen and Ganeshwa. Thank you also to all our presenters for your very interesting and thoughtful presentations and highlighting how libraries are key actors for promoting information integrity.
Thank you, Nina. Yes, Michelle. No, that's okay. So we've had a range of viewpoints from around the region. We heard about some great initiatives in all walks of life in Malaysia. We heard about initiatives in the higher education sector in the South Pacific, the USP region. We'd just like to ask a generic question to just kick off the Q&A by asking each of the presenters to just spend a few moments thinking about whether there were any further recommendations they could make in enhancing the information integrity conversation within their region or within their country. You've already mentioned current initiatives. Lauren, you mentioned some recommendations. Can you just touch on them or perhaps give Ganeshwar an opportunity to talk? We'll just kick off the Q&A if you have anything further to add, any of the speakers. And Dr. Shadrach, if you have anything to add to that conversation, happy for you to start.
Thank you, Jeshri, for the question. My colleague is, perhaps I'll give him an opportunity to speak. Ganeshwa, would you like to answer the question?
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, everyone there. For us in the recommendation part, as Lauren had mentioned, we have more than 20 center and campus libraries around the USP region. And trying to reach them with the lack of connectivity and internet connection is a big issue in our part of the world. So one recommendation, if possible, if you could get that corrected. The use of technology is one way we are bridging that gap. The use of Zoom, WebEx, where we tailor-make our information research skills programs to reach out to the far reaches of the region. Another one, I think one of the presenters did mention that the rise of AI, deepfake. We at the library, whilst we can't control what people put out there in the digital realm, we as librarians, what we can do is provide a method of actually giving them the tools to actually see or judge on things that are on misinformation or disinformation. So the ethical use of AI tools, while ChatGPT gives us answers to questions faster than anything that we have ever gathered, what we can ask them to do, ask students, researchers to ethically, critically analyze those answers which AI tools such as ChatGPT gives us. So those are two things, what Lauren had mentioned. I'm just elaborating on the recommendations he had put through in her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ganeshwar. Dr. Shadrach?
Yeah, maybe I can provide 3 specific recommendations. First, for the library community, the librarians and all the people associated in library services to update themselves. They need to constantly update themselves. So they can't be in the fringes. They can't be watching the fun. They should be the main players, which means they need to update themselves on all these advances that are happening. So that's my first recommendation. The second recommendation would be to align with IFLA and UNESCO. Usually the last week of October is celebrated as the Media and Information Literacy Week globally. 24th to the 31st of October is celebrated as the Global Media and Information Literacy Week. And UNESCO has come up with a very innovative, low-cost method of celebrating Media and Information Literacy Week. So one can follow and see what we can do, not only during that particular week, but also take forward around the year. It's a notional week that 24th to the 31st is celebrated in the month of October. But we can do this around the year. And the third recommendation that I would like to make is considering the fact that information integrity to a large extent is dependent on the main actors. Now we have government as the main actor who puts out information on the development goals. Now when it comes to the government and the government officials, there is lack of capacity in terms of data collection itself. So garbage in would only mean garbage out. So if you don't have clean data, if you don't have reliable data, whatever you compile at the national level is not going to be reliable enough. So we need to actually train them, orientate them to the very purpose of data being collected. So there is a huge opportunity because as librarians we have trained the students, we have trained our citizens, but I do not think we have trained enough the government officials in terms of what that data means. What does that mean in terms of target 4.1.c or SDG 16.1? So why the data becomes pertinent? It becomes pertinent because it comes back to the people, because the data is collected, compiled, and you are basically put on the radar, and then on the basis of evidence and informed data-based evidence, you program for your country. So that process itself has to be rich and very powerful. And at this point in time, unfortunately, the data collection exercise globally in many of the developing nations is quite fragile, partly because people have not understood enough. So we need to really work closely with the government agencies in terms of giving them the orientation of information integrity, and particularly on all aspects of information that affects people. And if I may add, another one is the one that our colleague Gyaneshwar mentioned earlier, when it comes to responsible ethical use of AI. Now, you put out a very wonderful, the picture, which itself is very stunning, because you could create a lot of deep fake. Now with the quantum computing, it becomes all the more easier for people to transmit quickly. In no time, there could be umpteen such fake videos created voluntarily and put out on the web. So in such a scenario, what is our role? Our role is to actually enlighten and educate the public on one hand as to how the whole domain of artificial intelligence operates. So in other words, AI literacy for citizens is something that we need to promote. And before that, we ourselves need to update within the community on the impact of AI in today's society. Because on one hand, we have the open education movement. USB mentioned about open education resources. A number of librarians have done a great deal in terms of creating that OER community around the world. But now AI, generative AI, is actually contesting this whole notion of openness. Generative AI can also come up with skewed, the whole idea of openness is to put out high quality output. The US Defense Agency first used the idea of open source because the codes can be rectified when it is put in the public domain. So the idea of openness is quality. Now, the idea of generative AI can also be skewed if it's not checked very well. There are quite a few efforts around AI safety institutes. Governments are concerned about ethical and responsible use of AI. Now, libraries can be the first actors to distill that to the citizens level in terms of educating them on the responsible, ethical aspects of AI and how people could not be dissuaded through deep fakes and other, misinformation. So these are the few things I thought libraries could do.
Thank you for that. We're kind of moving ahead with time, but I'd like Emilia just a quick moment if she has anything to add. You're already doing quite a lot in your country, in Malaysia. Did you have any particular recommendations in addition to what you're already doing that you'd like to share with us very quickly?
Yeah, I think just a short comment from me. I think what Dr. Shadas has mentioned is actually quite a lot already. So I believe empowering our users and society would be the key. We give them the tools. We teach them on like how to use information and even how to utilize AI. And at the same time, we also teach them on what would be happening to them if they actually do things unethically. So it means what would be the enforcement that they may face if they do things unethically or without integrity. So like I believe like what we always hear from Spider-Man movie, they said with great powers comes great responsibility. So we should actually teach our people the skills, the knowledge, and at the same time to be responsible of what they have done and what they are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I believe Stephen has he just popped out? Okay. Was there any questions come through in the Q&A chat? No. Was there any questions from the audience here? Gulchin, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is this working?
I think so.
Okay, that was fascinating, and I want to thank all the speakers for their insights. I worry, as you know, us librarians are a bit of worriers. I worry about censorship. I worry about democracy. And this is a bit controversial, but I need to say that to you. How do we make sure that we work in such a way that it's not seen as manipulation? I think manipulation is a really terrible word because we are not manipulators and we shouldn't be manipulators. And we should be neutral. That's what my philosophy is. How do you juggle the whole issue of being seen as bringing censorship, controlling, and the dichotomies to do with democracy? It's very deep, I know, and I know we don't have enough time to go through it in a great deal, but that is a concern I have personally as a librarian.
I think in any such situation, the easiest form of action that the governments take is take down. They order the social media companies to simply take down, and they also do shut down when it comes to sensitive, situations, they simply shut down the internet. So both are not good, and very many strong regimes have used it very effectively to shut down and take down. Now, this needs to be resisted, no doubt. How do we resist it? Only the political parties and the citizenry movements can resist this whole show. Otherwise, we would walk into a danger of the companies and the government's nexus that could basically manipulate, as you mentioned, and take it to a situation where they can continue to perpetuate these problems. But thankfully, in the Asia Pacific, we have seen in the recent years, not only in the recent years, right from the Philippines, the mobile phone campaign days onwards, we have seen the power of democracy. Whatsoever the companies, the private sector, and the governments could come so omnipotent and controlling, the people's power is supreme, and they do have the ability to throw down the regimes. When they take down and show down, people can throw them down. So it's possible, but unfortunately they do it once in a while. What we need to do is to bring that culture, democratic culture of fighting this whole narrative, and that's something, a powerful role that the libraries could play in terms of rekindling that passion to make every citizen argumentative, every citizen information inquiring citizen, so that they as they move on and grapple with not only the powerful regimes but also this phenomenon called generative AI, you need a really critically thinking smart citizens, and only libraries can produce.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience? And if not, I'll hand over to Stephen. Any questions? Floor is yours.
Okay. So I'm not sure if these are comments or questions. So I'll raise my voice at the end of the sentence if they're questions. And if not, I won't. So firstly, just say that these have been fantastic presentations, and actually some of the themes that are written down as being particularly interesting, I think have been tackled. I think one of the concerns, one of the issues that we have when talking about information integrity is that it's about how do we actually cite libraries within broader campaigns. And I think, this isn't just something that happens with information integrity. It happens a lot of the time that libraries see that something is necessary, see that there's a need to mobilize, come up with a campaign, and do it entirely in isolation from everyone else who's working on these issues, which is a bit of a shame, because actually that's missing an opportunity to have done something meaningful. So, for example, Emilia, your example from Sarawak was extremely positive in terms of actually working alongside the government, making sure that libraries are integrated, because we can't always trust that governments are going to think of us as part of their toolkit. They're not going to see us necessarily as actors. We tend to get seen as buildings rather than actors a lot of the time. And so I think one question that comes out of that is, are there any lessons from the experiences that you've had so far of how to make sure that libraries are brought into this process and are not just fighting the good fight, but sort of somewhere far left of the battlefield or whatever? I think a second reflection, and I think this comes back to this question of what is information integrity in the first place. I know that it's a catchy term. It is quite a convincing term, and it's been extremely positive to see the UN use this. I think we can certainly celebrate the fact that there are UN documents coming out saying reliable, high quality, accurate, verifiable information is something that matters, because that doesn't happen every year, it doesn't happen every day. I think that's a huge win. I think a lot of the time the idea that you can trust the information that you see is just taken for granted. Often, I don't know, stuff that comes out of the UN has been written by people with a very high level of education and very easy access to the information that they might actually need. And so there's a risk of taking for granted the idea that actually not having access to information and not being able to work through information might actually be a thing. So that's a positive. At the same time, I don't know, and again, this is probably, I don't know, this is maybe a little bit subjective as an opinion. To the degree that information integrity is built on the idea that there is such a thing as definitely, absolutely, canonically true information out there, maybe a little bit risky. Because, I don't know, firstly, people have always lied. And I don't know, no information is necessarily 100% true. If you're following scientific method, it is true until someone proves it wrong. I don't know, that's, I don't know, again, I don't know, it's one way of looking at it, but I don't know, the idea of putting something up there as being definitively, canonically, absolutely true can be a little bit dangerous. And so, I don't know, I think the answer to that is more on the side of accepting that things are more or less accurate. How do we equip people with the skills to look out for what is more accurate without being completely surrendering all sense of critical thinking, I think is interesting. And so I think we've talked a little bit, and Jayshree, you underlined that the importance of building that sense of curiosity, that sense of being able to interact, that confidence and competence in doing it is interesting. And I can't show it because it's tiny and it's terribly written, but I think there's an interesting piece of work to be done about looking at both, I don't know, the supply and the demand side of information integrity. So supply, making sure there's as much high quality information out there as possible, but also the demand side. How do we build up people's ability to spot what is valuable, and how do we build up people's interest in what is valuable? I think that really counts for something. I know, having followed the work that the UN's done on this, the work on information integrity came from fake news. It came from, being very blunt, it came from people being a bit freaked out by Facebook and Google, and a general distrust at Donald Trump saying stuff that wasn't true and not feeling bad about it. And so it came from this very much sort of this based on information disorders, and there are problems. And with time, fortunately, it's drifted away from being just about resolving problems, like sort of curing the disease, towards promoting well-being, and how do we promote a more positive, holistic, positive agenda around information integrity. I think in the minds of the UN, it's still mainly that negative side. It's, you look through the document, it's about 75% all of the ills of social media. It used to be 95% all of the ills of social media, so we're getting somewhere better. But making sure we keep that focus on how do we promote not just attacking information disorders, but promoting information wellness. That's a very American word. I feel bad using it, but promoting a healthy, positive information environment, and how do we get there, which I think is another, it's an interesting angle when we're looking at questions about that. And I think it's actually one that favours libraries, because if all we're doing all the time is looking for the disorders and trying to attack them, curing the disease, we fail to focus on promoting the wellness, promoting the healthy environment in the first place, which I said I think is a very strong area for libraries. And how do we get to there? I think that I suppose that the thing I was going to end on, but I think that also just references back to some of the things that have been said. In that UN document, there is a clear thing saying that UN country teams, so these are the groups of people from different UN agencies, they have a responsibility to go out and do something about this. And I sort of suspect that given in most countries they have zero leverage over Google, they have zero leverage over Facebook, they're going to be looking for something that they actually can do. And I think if library associations and libraries stand up and say, well, you could work with us, then I think they may be quite receptive to that. And so I think there's also really an opportunity, if we can work out, if we can articulate what is the offer of libraries, what are the concrete things that we as libraries can do to contribute to this overall goal, if we can explain that clearly and convincingly, I think there's an opportunity to build a really interesting partnership there.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all our speakers. Michelle, do I have a couple of minutes to finish up? Thank you for all the amazing presentations today, those of you in the room as well as online. Dr. Shadrach set the scene this afternoon with his overview of information integrity and the role that we as librarians and in our role as librarians in libraries can do. We can make that difference. And also Dr. Ibrahim looked at information from a national perspective, and we heard about all the different ways that they were taking that approach, that multifaceted approach, and the response to the various different areas that we can work in need to be multifaceted as well. Firstly, in Malaysia, the role of the government in creating an effective framework with legislation, with policies, with regulations, that enabling environment that's required. And secondly, the role of libraries and other agencies. That's where we come in to contribute to the empowerment of citizens through media, information literacy, digital literacy, and also awareness campaigns. Taking this further, Lauren and Ganeshwa presented their experience working for a regional university, the University of the South Pacific, with an emphasis on upholding information integrity in the higher education context. So there is much to think about, and we have done a lot of work, we are doing a lot of work. However, there's a lot more work needing to be done, and that needs to come from us. So there's no doubt that libraries have a key role to play in advancing the information integrity agenda, and that's where we come in. So we're relying on you guys, so thank you. And that concludes our event this afternoon.